timing. So my name is Joyce Whitby. I'm really excited to have you all here today. And I'm just going to be the host and kind of guide you around what we're doing. Ben Lovell, does not have his picture showing yet, though he may go like this if I tease him enough. Ben is our vice president from Education Associates. There he is. Hi. And he's behind the scenes, and he will be helping people who have questions like that, Megan, and answering other questions about things that are going on. So we've got backup, which is always a great thing. I've got with us today, as I said earlier, person I have gotten my inspiration from this summer during this crazy time that we're all in. Mrs. Brooke Wendt, and she is the job training coordinator and intervention specialist from the Career Exploration Program at Medina County Career Center in Ohio. You heard us talking about Ohio.
Hello, everyone.
And then my excitement here today grows because we do have two interpreters, Margaret Hall and Lena Dumont, from the Learning Center for the Deaf Interpreting Services. We're also leaving the closed captioning on. And let's talk about that for just a second. It's not perfect. It's Google has these closed captioning services embedded in their product. And even if you go ahead and look at what they say, they realize that it doesn't have punctuation, and sometimes it will not catch the correct word. And it certainly doesn't differentiate between speakers. But they're working on it, and they are committed from their text that I read. They're committed to providing the maximum amount of accessibility for everybody. And we're just so pleased that we're able to incorporate that as well as the interpreting services with the ASL today. So I want to thank both Margaret and Lena ahead of time, and I'll thank them again later on. But I'm going to dive on in and just say, you've already found the chat, so you know how to go ahead and ask us questions. Please don't hesitate. We really want this to be your time. We want there to be engagements so that you can really feel that you're part of this and you can get to see what's going on. There is also another button on your control panel that says Q&A. And so if you have a specific question for the presenters, you could just put it in that Q&A. Ben is going to be scanning both the chat and the Q&A, and we'll try and bring those questions up to the presenter's attention. At the end, we will have a Q&A time specifically for that. So stick around for that because that'll be fun as well. And if you can see this screen, you can see we've got an awful lot of things to talk about, right? There's just so much that comes within the whole category of transition. And before I get started with that, we want to make sure that this is really geared towards you all so that we know who we're talking with. So I'm going to launch a poll. So let's see. There's a poll that I just put up on the screen. And with that, you need to just kind of click on what your role is in education so we know who's in the audience today. And I'll give it just a few more moments. I like to see we get over 50% of our attendees responding. Cool thing is that we've got 140, well, that includes us, so 135 of you all here. Thank you so much for spending your hour with us. We will make it worth your while. And I'll close the poll now. We've got about, we've got a good quorum represented there. And here are the results so that you can see. It's kind of almost a third classroom teacher special ed, a third transition specialist, and then other, which you might have entered into the chat box. There we go, case managers, instructional assistants, behavior analysts, my words are not working, SLPs, super, school social worker, BCBAs. Thank you all for coming, I appreciate that. And so that will help us, we'll try and gear our comments to you, and we're going to try and explain a little bit more about the practices that we found that work really well for doing transition during these most unique times. But, you know, most importantly, one size does not fit all. So we're sharing, we've got a large library of material. At the end, once Brooke is done, I'm going to go over places where you could find more resources. So stick with me for that. What we hope to share with you are options. That's really all we can do. You and your students will be different than the next groups, right? So we want to make sure that you know you're just going to kind of hopefully use these suggestions and adapt them to your own need. Let me tell you just a 1 minute worth about who we are, Education Associates, because we're really kind of proud of the fact that this is our 40th anniversary this year. And you know, there's not a lot of companies that kind of stand that test of time. And I think that the reason why our CEO and the Chief Academic Officer have been here keeping this company going and growing every year, changing and modifying, is because of that focus on hands-on approach for both life skills and job skills, and adherence to those evidence-based practices, universal design for learning, alignment with both CTE and curriculum standards. I mean, all of the good things you see here on the screen, they've really focused on that. And I think that that's the reason why they have stood this test of time. You don't have to take my word for it, as it has already been approved and validated by a number of different agencies, including the U.S. Department of Education and National Dropout Prevention Center, and you can see other associations here. What we're super excited about this year is that the CASE group, the Council of Administrators for Special Education, have given us their official endorsement, which is, if you've never heard about this, go Google it. It's really quite an arduous process. It's almost like a little mini doctorate, right? You really have to do a little mini dissertation, present your research based on their rubrics, and then you have to defend it and so forth. And we did, and it took like 8 months, although I think COVID kind of extended that a bit. So, but it's a big honor, and we're very pleased, and we work very closely with both the national CASE and several of the state affiliates. I always get this one question, and that is, what is NOCTI? NOCTI, and that is the National Occupational Competency Testing Institute. A lot of acronyms these days, but this organization works with industry verticals like plumbers and healthcare and stuff, and they do micro-credentialing. So like you would see people get a Google badge, like a Google Educator badge and things like that. Well, those types of badges, we worked with them, and students who go through this curriculum can get micro-credentials. They can get digital badge credentials, a real 21st century type of resume. So we're not going to spend a lot of time today talking about our curriculum per se. So I'm just going to give you the really quick overview. Job ready, life ready, that kind of explains it all. We've got over 100 titles dealing with career awareness, exploration, an adapted version of that, job skills. These are some of the topics that we cover within this. So it goes for children that are in elementary school all the way up to the 18 through 22-year-old programs. There's a lot of different adaptations and so forth. It's pretty amazing. These are hands-on kits with real tools that teach adults and pubescent adults and adults, teaches them about different careers. It's really an amazing thing. We're in every state, over 5,000 schools. And then the other side are the life skills. And here's where we have 62 different titles. They're categorized into 4 big topic areas: job prep and employability, independent living skills, confidence and social skills, health and nutrition. So if you'd like any additional information about them, I'll show you at the end how you can get some more information about, finding out more about that. But without further ado, I'm going to ask Brooke to put her camera back on for a moment. And I'm really pleased to be able to introduce Brooke to you today. As I mentioned, she is a intervention specialist and job training coordinator in Medina County Career Center. And Brooke, you want to tell folks a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Joyce. And thank you to Education Associates for having me come on today. It's been great working with Ben and Joyce and Shelly and Gary too, that helped me with my curriculum. So just a little bit about myself. Like Joyce said, I'm a job training coordinator. So I teach students who have disabilities how to gain employability and life skills. So I do go out into the community with the students and we work on working real life application. So this is my 6th year at the Career Center, and this is actually my 3rd year using the curriculum that I have chosen for my students from Education Associates. And right now I'm actually in person. We're not remote. I'm in person 5 days a week, all day, all the students every day. And it's been really good to have them back and to be back with, the staff and students this year. So that's just a little bit about myself. So Joyce, if you want to continue on to the next slide, that would be awesome.
I also just remembered that I forgot to put up that second poll about what's going, because you reminded me here when you're saying, what does your school look like now? Let's find out from folks here.
Yeah, sure.
This should pop on up. What does 2020, fall 2020 look like for you guys? It's really just so different everywhere. And so look at these answers, kind of amazing. It really is everywhere now. We did this in the September and in the August one. And I think what I'd love to do is go back and compare, because we all had one plan back in July and August, and then it keeps changing.
It does.
All right, I think we've got over 50% there now. Exactly, every few moments. Okay, so here are the results, folks. This is kind of interesting. We really, back in July and August, the 100% face-to-face was perhaps the forerunner right there now. But hybrid seems to be the big difference. And the parents' choice also, as well as remote. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. And I will go ahead and click Brooke to the next slide. And I'm going to get off screen so they can pay attention to you.
So Joyce has listed the topics that I have in my curriculum, in my library. I have 12 different ones that you can see that are listed here. I do have 2 sections to my program. So some of this is taught the first year and some of it is taught the 2nd year. What's great about Education Associates and the project discovery items that I have is that you can pick and choose which items are going to be beneficial for your students, what are their goals for IEPs, or just their goals in life in general. So one of the topics that we were in the middle of when the pandemic hit was consumer shopping unit, which got interesting because typically we go out grocery shopping together. So I'm actually going to share with you how I adapted it so that my students could work on it remotely, because they were completely online in March, the whole shebang. So if you want to go on to the next slide, Joyce, then that talks about what I did. So one of the things that my students absolutely love is Kahoot. So Kahoot is a little game that you can the kids can interact with it on their phone, on their computers. You can do it remote, you can do it in person. So it's a game, but you're putting the questions into the game so your students can interact. It's, a little bit more fun than paper pencil or online clicking A, B, or C. So I took the pre and post questions that were in the curriculum and put them into the Kahoot. So like I said, they love Kahoot. Anytime I do it, they want to do it again and again and again. And you can see Joyce is clicking through, like when the kids do it, it gives you back live feedback, like, you know, the answer was true, but they didn't get it right. And it'll go through and it'll give you the scores at the very end. It's fun, interactive. My students love to compete with each other because at the end, it'll give you, you know, third, second, first place. And, you know, it's kind of fun to see how well they do throughout the time. So we click through, yep, and this is another one where they got the answer right. All right, so why I love this curriculum so much is that it is definitely leveled to differentiate for your students, whatever they need. There's 2 different reading levels, so that has really been beneficial for my students. And it provides the foundation for what you need. I was not sure how I was going to manipulate everything, but once I figured out what was going to work for my students, it has been a breeze. And it was a breeze to move on to online. So like I said, able to manipulate it. You could, you know, if your student is having a reduction in the choices, it's easy to take out some of those choices. The worksheets are real easy to manipulate too. And I love the pre and post assessments because we all want that data. We all want to see that growth. So we always take those before and after, and it's kind of a game with the kids and Kahoot, you know, to see how well they do. And like the worksheets and other materials. I mean, you can completely come out of the box with your ideas and just make it your own. I love that Education Associates gives you, like they said, the foundation. Now you get to add everything to it that you would like. Go to the next slide, Joyce. So like I said, it was easy to transfer everything onto Google Drive and to use on Google Classroom. That was the platform that I used for our students. You can make the worksheets using Google Forms if you know how to do that. It was pretty easy and the students can manipulate it and use it. I mean, you can come up with tons of ideas on how to use those worksheets. One of the biggest tips I have is look for items that students have access at home to continue learning online, but at home. So one of the things with consumer shopping was during the pandemic, everybody was doing online shopping. So I could get the students to do the online shopping or participate with their parents and then report back to me, which is exactly what the next point is, that, you know, I would have them report on things at home, like, were you doing chores? Were you cleaning? Were you helping around the house? The things that we were doing in the classroom. Are you cooking meals? I mean, the kids were getting online and telling me that they were doing those things. And I think it was really beneficial. I know the pandemic it's not the greatest thing, but I think it had some benefit to it for my students. And you can see one of the curriculum there that Joyce put in that kind of compares the prices of items, which could have been easily done online too, you know, based on different grocery stores, different prices, different weights and sizes of items too. So go on to the next slide. So before the pandemic and today, I still use everything the same way that I did before. It's just now I'm in person with my students. So I'm using the 6th to 8th grade reading level for my students. I've created sections. So it's one big long PowerPoint. So I divided it up because it's long for my students and it's just easy to do little check-ins throughout the time. So I also embedded some questions into it for my students to interact while presenting in class and in person. And I still use the worksheets as they're presented in the binder. One of the things that I did was my students loved listening to me, which I didn't think that they would when we were online. I read through the PowerPoint for them so that and I talked through it like I would if we were in class, and my students loved that because they loved hearing me and talking about the things that I do when I'm shopping. So Joyce, do you want to click on that and just kind of give a little preview of what it was like? Thank you. So you'll hear my voice again. I think it's working on it. Oh, there we go. I'm not sure if you can hear, but it is me saying like today typically we would be going to the grocery store, but today we're going to do it virtually and go through the PowerPoint together. And I talked to the students about, thinking about these things while you're at home, what can you do to help your parents? And I definitely talked about, what are some items that you can't get and how are you trying to manage that? There were just so many living skills that we could have. So that's just how I know that you probably can't hear it, but it's me talking again and just reading through it with my little comments. So if you want to go back, Joyce, to the main PowerPoint. I'm just kind of glad that it wasn't playing, so I have to hear myself in stereo. Okay, so we moved everything online. I took everything into Google Form. The great thing about Google Form is you don't have to have Google Classroom to use it. So you can definitely share those links through an email or anything that works for you. So when we went to the pandemic, I panicked because I was at home and we weren't allowed to go back into our building and I didn't have my curriculum. So thankfully, Shelly helped me out from Education Associates, and she provided e-access to the materials that my district had purchased, which was a huge lifesaver. So then, like I said, I created the videos with the slides where I read them just like I would if we were in the classroom, and then took those questions and created them into a Google form. So then if we go on to the next slide, Joyce, it's the online learning, the post-online learning. There we go. So like I said, PowerPoint presentation to them as if we were in person. They liked using the Google Forms because they could do the split screen, so they could pull up the PowerPoint and have the questions right next to each other to help for more understanding, or if they needed to refer back to it. And actually one of those, the picture there is the post test for consumer shopping, and I had it where it would grade it right away. And yeah, Joyce, you can click on that. And my students, I had a couple that really wanted to strive to do well this last quarter. So I had it open, they could take it multiple times to get better grades and to show that they were understanding it. So Joyce is just typing through, clicking through and showing you how easy it is. You can set it up and you can have it grade it for you. You can give it a point value. You can hide it so that the kids don't see what their scores are. And it also puts it into an Excel sheet, so you can always have that document and you can see the attempts, how well they did. So right here, Joyce is gonna see her score, and I hope she did well. Ooh, 3 out of 5. That was a good attempt though, Joyce. We might have to, do some clarification. But you can see just how easy it was, and it also provides them with the correct answer too. So that was just one way. So you could definitely put your questions that you're having into a Google form or even the worksheet. My students did prefer a mix of online learning materials and things that were engaging and interacting. As much as I know they thought that they wanted to be online, I think they really did miss us. So I still use a lot of these items today. I don't do so much of my quizzes and whatnot on Google Forms because the kids like paper pencil right now. But if tomorrow, knock on wood, let's hope not, that we go online, I'm all ready to go. I can plug in all of my Google Forms and the PowerPoints and they're good to go. So it's been an easy transition for me at least. So Joyce, I think we're on, that was the last slide for us. So do you want to go to the next slide and take back over?
Yeah, here we go. Brooke, you just said something that's real important at the end. Everything you said was really great, but you just said that you're ready to go if for some reason you needed to go online.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about why you feel you're ready to go.
Well, now that we've already been immersed into this in March, and I have an idea of what worked and what didn't work, I know now that what my students need is what I've done in the past, maybe just upping it a little bit, maybe even having more interaction with the, I have all the PowerPoints, everything's divided, all the questions are up, I have it typed, I can plug it right into Google. I mean, I have all the documents. It's easy at this point. I just hope that we don't have to go remote again.
Yeah, I hope so too, but for everybody here as well. I'm going to reiterate one thing that Laura puts in the chat here. Patience is the virtue of progress. I love that. That's quotable. We're going to keep that.
Yes.
It's really very good. And I did see a couple of other questions that I'll share. So I know one question was, were you talking about a 6th through 8th grade reading level? What's the range of abilities of your students, and how can you make accommodations for them with these materials?
So my students are more of a mild to moderate level. So they're usually about a 4th, 5th grade reading level. So I read everything aloud to them. You could definitely plug that in with any of the materials that you need. I have some students that I reduce the amount of options for the questions just per their IEPs. So that's a couple of things that I've done with them. Some of the longer responses I don't do as much with my kids if it's like typed or written, but we do a lot of verbal discussions, which is really beneficial for them.
Yeah, that's, sometimes the easiest way is to really kind of get them involved with that, and then maybe that leads to some content type of reading that they can do. Right? Got to put the cart before the horse. How did the parents of your students react to consumer shopping? Were there any moms or dads who were like, okay, my son or daughter wants to help me shop wisely? Did that create any situation?
It kind of was interesting because here in Medina, Walmart didn't have pickup yet. So when I was explaining it to the kids before the pandemic, they didn't really understand what I was talking about. So again, I don't want to say it was a good thing, but it ended up being a good thing that it kind of forced all of us to look online and use our apps and search for what's available, when we were trying to find toilet paper. The kids and I were talking about some of the locations that, you may have to go to a different store. But I think the parents appreciated it, that it actually ended up being like the perfect time when we were on the pandemic, that I'm usually grocery shopping and cooking with the kids. So it kind of forced everybody to be doing those together with their family. So I had a lot of parents that were emailing me, telling me that they started cooking, like we're shopping and we're cooking. I'm like, that's good. That's what we want. Yay for macaroni and cheese being made. We're making progress.
Right. That is making progress. And I will go ahead, I'll put the slides down in a moment so that people can see all of the panel here, but I do want to share a few other things with folks in a moment. So I'll get to that, just letting Ben know. But one of the things that you do is what I've heard people call app smashing. Have you heard that phrase? Because you're doing it really well. It's when you take a whole bunch of different apps, like you took the Google and the Kahoot. And so, and you're just using them all kind of together. It's just seamless. I think one of the things that people may not understand is that our curriculum from Education Associates is provided in an open format. You mentioned that Shelley had provided it for you. So talk a little bit about that because it's, I don't know of any other publishers that provide you with a like a Word document that you can copy and paste and modify. So
Yes, I know. At first, when I got the bind, so it's in a binder, they're big binders, and it has everything printed out for you in those binders. And, you know, it's divided between the different sections, like I was saying, the different reading levels, and the worksheets are different too for each level. So it has a flash drive in it that has all of those documents on it. So that's where where I'm able to manipulate it and section it off so that when my kids see it up there, they're not like, oh my gosh, we have to get through like 90 some slides. Like, no, just 20 today and some questions that Mrs. Met put in there. So that's mainly what the curriculum is. And you can go in and manipulate it on, I think, Microsoft Word. Is that what the documents are in and PowerPoint? So
yep,
you can go
they're
into
in Word
Word.
and PowerPoint.
Yeah, and you can go into Word and change things that way too on the worksheets or any of the assessments too.
Right, absolutely. Um, well, great. I'm gonna just go ahead and click for a couple things because I see questions from people asking about where they could find some more information. So stick around, Brooke, because there'll be more questions for you, I'm sure. But I
Okay.
just wanted to share with people that there's a lot of information that you have access to. We'll send you these links in a follow-up email as well. Um, but one of the first ones that I'll talk about is our monthly newsletter. And it's really always chock full of great thoughts and ideas. So this past month, this is what it looked like. And as you can see, it has in there 5 remote learning highlights from our dialogue with the speaker from last month, using household items to do job prep, flipping your classroom, which means you would show the PowerPoint or the video, let the student watch that, the video modeling and things that we have, let them watch that the night before. And then the next day when you have one-on-one time with the students synchronously like this, you could be asking questions and going into it. Telling social stories, letting students have the parents use their smartphone to take pictures of a student doing a task, like doing the shopping or doing the organization on the shelves or whatever job related or life skill related tasks they might be doing, using the Google Forms like we spoke about here today because they're very easy. And then I love the last one, a virtual career day. At the end of the semester, have all students share videos or slideshows of the new career or life skills that they've learned. So definitely, if you go to our site, there's a spot at the bottom of just about every page. It says sign up for the newsletter. Lots of good stuff there too. Remote learning, if you go to our website, and I left the URL up there so you can see it, but I'm going to go right to the page. And so we do have a page that has quite a bit of this information that we've gathered, because over the past, oh, I don't know, what is it, 5 or 6 months, it's all a blur. We have gathered information, various suggestions and so forth. So on our website is chock full of this. And once again, if you see how Brooke did it, she's using lots of different apps at her availability to bring this curriculum to life for her student. We've actually gone at the level of taking our curriculum and identifying those types of items which would be readily accessible at home that students could learn and practice various activities in our job skills or life skills course, like greenhouse work, child care, skin and nail care, very popular, health and nutrition, another life skills program, advertising and editorial design. I mean, like with something like that, you just need pens, markers, and paper. So we've done that and I've laid that on out for you. So that's where you can get that. And you see on the bottom of our website newsletter, just kind of go ahead and fill in and you can get those wonderful newsletters that we send out. What's the next thing that I put in here? Let's see. Oh, so today you're on what we call our Webinar Wednesday. And this is being recorded. And of course, this is our first time in using the translation services rather. And, but what we have done is that we've put a link to the previous 4 events. So since June 3rd was our first, and then July 8th, August 5th, September 2nd, and then today's will be added here. So you can feel free to come up to this site and listen to others, which are kind of similar, but always have a little bit of different twist. And share these sites with your colleagues, feel free. These are all free resources available to you. And what did we put next? I have to remind myself. Oh, that's what I did. Hold on, let me come back here. Here we go. And the next thing is on our site, we also have some additional, oops, where am I going there? I know where I'm going. We have some additional materials. So we've got our, what we call our interactive preview packet. And so if you go ahead and download this, it's free, but it will give you access to sample curriculum. And I saw several people asking questions about material. Are there materials that are available for more severe and profoundly impaired children? And how do you modify it? Brooke mentioned she uses the 6th through 8th grade level curriculum. We've got modifications across the board. So we've got materials that will work for very high functioning students, as well as students who are really maybe nonverbal, medically fragile, severe and profoundly impaired, autism spectrum, learning disabled, intellectually disabled, cognitively. Just a lot of different things. So you can go on in and see actual samples from each of those curriculums, hear some of the video modeling and see it, hear some of those, the PowerPoints and so forth, and kind of go through some of the other pieces behind it. So there's a lot of information there for you. Again, that's free on the site.
Joyce, can I jump in for a minute?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Having that available to have the preview was awesome. And that really helped with like getting my supervisor on board with it when I showed it with her, and even doing run-throughs with the kids just to see what their level of interaction was. So definitely check those out if you're interested.
Cool. I think that that's, you know, one of those things right now that I've been hearing from folks is that we need curriculum. We need to have it in a lot of different formats. And what's nice about this is that just about everything that's in our series, they all follow a very similar infrastructure. So there's a lot of consistency, and that consistency and that's infrastructure makes it easier for both teachers and students to go into new topics, and gives them that sense of, I don't know, just security. And I think that's what we're lacking in a lot of ways, right? That we don't know what's coming next and so forth. And when it comes to trauma-informed practices, that's one of the things that they talk about, is really being able to have, help build trust and help students feel that everything's going to be fine. We know what we're going through. We understand what the next step is going to be. So it really is kind of a neat thing to be able to do that as well. So let's see. The videos closed captioning is a question. Thanks, Michelle. And the videos are available in, so that when you click on them, they're on the media. We send a little flash drive, so you could watch them like that. But I believe you can also click on them and they go to YouTube. And I have to look back to see how you do it, but then you've got the YouTube closed captioning. I've oftentimes shared those same videos, and they do work really well. So the closed captioning does happen with that. So super. And I'm looking for other questions just to see. Yeah, I love the idea of the career day too, Judy. Thanks. I thought that was really and cool thing to do virtually, right? You could really have a Zoom career day, and everybody can share. And you could even have people from the community come on in and talk about what they're doing as well. Are the webinar Wednesdays a specific time? Yes, they come on the first Wednesday of the month at 2 p.m. Eastern. So that's what we're trying to again, be a little consistent about that as we go on through. And we have a couple of minutes, and I know somebody earlier on had asked me simply about the, I'll do it this way. They asked me about the, forgive me while I go to find this, here we go, about the digital badges, because that's such a new and different type of a thing. So let me explain again. So that organization, NOCTI, NOCTI, they have this digital badge locker. And what's really different about this is that it provides students with a digital badge, whether they're working on a life skill or they're working on one of our job skills. It's across the board. So you can see here that you could have gotten a badge, or this particular student, this fake student we have, has a banking, credit, and loan. That's one of our life skills courses, is on managing your money. Or our job skills on cleaning, maintenance, advertising and editorial design, construction trades. I saw a presentation at a national conference last fall when we were all together and in the same place. And there was a superintendent and assistant sup talking about their digital badges that they're using in their career and technical education program. And so I saw that on the promo on the program, and I said, I have to go in and listen to that. And I asked them, I said, so what do students need to do to get into your CTE program? He says, well, they have to have a 9th grade reading level or better. And I rolled my eyes a little, I'm sure, but I said, I guess that doesn't count our students in. But I did ask him another question. I said, what do you do with your digital badges once the students get them? And he says, well, we have the students create LinkedIn profiles. So I'm gonna let that sink into you for a moment, but you don't need to use a dime of our curriculum if you don't want to. But anybody could create a LinkedIn profile. And that is a way for looking for jobs and for learning more about what people are looking for in jobs. We talked about 21st century skills. We're in 2020. Here we are. And when I came back to our digital badge locker, lo and behold, there's a lot of different social ways that you can share this, and LinkedIn is one of them. Of course, you could also just hit the print button, and that would print out this piece here with a little bit of information. What I do like, what I would suggest, is that you'd also print out the criteria. So here is a list of the criteria that this student has demonstrated in order to get that, that badge. I just think printing out the little green badge with this list and walking on into, let's see, this is auto detailing, walking on into a local car cleaning or even a car dealership and saying, hey, Mr. Manager or Ms. Manager, this student has demonstrated these competencies. Would you give them a shot at a job? I think that that's an amazing way to do some 21st century job skill development. And here's auto detailing basic versus enhanced. Learn a little bit more about our curriculum. We've got tons of stuff in here. I've had people ask me, do these competencies, do you do OSHA training and so forth? And I like to point out on this one in particular, it says, one of the things a student has learned is how to maintain a safe work environment that complies with both EPA and OSHA. So though this is not an OSHA course, it is something that would come before that. If the student had that, ability to be able to move to that next level, they could certainly go on into that. So I think it's kind of neat, and I think it's different. You can say you saw it here first. I don't know of anybody who's got a digital badge locker system for students with special needs. Brooke, what do you think about that? I know you don't have this. Kind of
No,
cool,
I
huh?
was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And I know one of my coworkers, Tracy, is actually on here. And I'm like, this would be awesome, Tracy. We need to figure this out and get this for our students.
Yeah, it's, we've got to be thinking forward, right? The saying is, prepare students for their future, not our past, right?
Yeah.
So that's what this kind of reminds me of. So I do love sharing that with folks as we go along. And I
I
know
think
that
it'll
that
help.
kind of killed some
I
of
think
the
it'll
closed
help
captioning.
too with like building resumes and, when you're putting your information on an application, like what kinds of things have you done, accomplished. I think that would be a really good idea to use that too with your LinkedIn profile.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so I got rid of the sharing of the slides so that you could get a little bit closer. I think that as we get better with the interpreters going alongside of us, we need to figure out how we can keep them front and center. And I think that there's something I did read about in Zoom. So I hope folks can see all three of us here now. And I know that that was an issue, but we're learning alongside of you. So this has been a really great experience for me to have the interpretation going as well. Um, Somebody did ask if we would get the transcript of the closed captioning. And I believe there was an option I saw on there that we can do that. And I think it might, it will stick with the recording. It does stay there. And we'll look to see if we can get that transcript from there as well. So um, the name of the program, okay, what was the name of the program that provides the badges? It's from us, from Education Associates. The organization, NOCTI, NOCTI.org or .com, one or the other. You'll learn a little bit more about them there. But these specific badges come as part of our curriculum, right? So there are many other things. I did go on their site a couple of times and looked up, and there's ways that people who are in various civil service jobs or things like plumbing and electrician, that they can go and take various certification tests and get those badges that I guess increase their wherever they are on their steps for their pay and so forth. So that's pretty good. If you have any other questions, folks, just put them on in. We're checking them on out. I think that it's really kind of neat, Brooke, because what I think what you taught me is just like not to freak out. Um, right? Just remain calm and take a look at it. And it's, kind of, I've oftentimes said to people during this pandemic that I think of the student who's in the remote setting as a student who's just at another learning station in my classroom, right?
Right.
So you have a learning station in this corner by the sink, and that's where kids could learn hygiene. And you have another learning station by the window, and they're growing plants or, whatever you've got all around your room. Some of those learning stations, students are walking up to independently, and they've got a checklist of what they need to do, whether it's a visual schedule or whatever accommodation you might have for them, but it tells them what to do
Right.
there, and they can work it independently. Other workstations, they might need a parapro or another adult, could be a parent or guardian at home helping them. And then other stations, you might be with them one-on-one to make sure that they understood. So I kind of, when I put it in that perspective in my head, I didn't get as freaked out about having, the thought of, okay, I've got all these kids remotely and just, okay, you're at this learning station. What have you done here today? Let's move you through.
Right. And I took it more like the same aspect you did. I was just like, nothing is changing. We're still doing everything that we did. I mean, I wasn't going to Walgreens or Bueller's or anything, but I was still doing what I was doing, but just online with the students. So I think they appreciated that it was very similar to what we would have done in the classroom to keep that consistency for our kids who are have disabilities and are transitioning. So
yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, you think about a student who might be 21 or 22, depending on districts and states. They exit out at a different age, but it's around there. And you think about, well, if this is their year, I'm not going to lose any time with them this year. I want to give them everything I can before they're out of our system and go to the next step. So let's just make it happen.
right. But I mean, we all did the best that we could do. And now as educators, we're always learning and growing. So now is our year to continue to learn and grow.
Right. Absolutely. And I think, there's something we're all going to learn out of it. It would be nice if this had never happened.
I know.
But I think there's some silver linings in it too.
Great.
So
I get to do this with you guys.
hey,
I know, which is super exciting. I've never done a webinar and I love it.
and that's so cool. It's a lot of fun. Well, now you're a pro. Now you're gonna come on back all the time. So,
Get a badge, right?
That's a great idea. Ben, you should write that down. We need to give out digital badges to all of our guest speakers. I like that they could put that on their own profiles and things as it goes along. And I think that, being able to share these videos, so going to that Webinar Wednesday site, just poke around on our website because there's a lot of things on there that are all for free that you can really take advantage of. And you see like this webinar or one of the other ones that might be helpful for some of your other teachers. I know in the last one, we kind of went on into the adapted version of our job skills programs. The adapted program has a lot more of the evidence-based practices embedded in there. So you've got visual schedules and video modeling and all sorts of different types of resources that just let you go deeper and deeper into that content without being 100% repetitive. So kind of always a big piece would be good. So yeah. Well, great. I want to thank everybody for being here. I think that we've hit the job that we attended to get right here. So we'll give you a couple minutes back for the rest of your day. If you've got more questions, feel free to pop them on in. We won't run away on you, but you might need a minute or two to just kind of get a breath. If you're like me, this is not your only Zoom today. And we do tend to, I do want to step back though and thank once again, I want to thank the folks for the interpretation services. Really do appreciate that. It's, just make sure I can get back to that screen there. Thank you so much to Learning Center for the Deaf Interpreting Sign. And I want to applaud you. I'm applauding both Lena and Margaret and saying thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So yeah, you'll have to laugh because I know very little ASL, but what I did learn, I learned in trying to keep my children in line when we were at the grocery or something, and I would tell them things. Yeah, I would like, I cut it out now. Out now. And they just knew it. I'd start like this, like, okay, we got it. It's very useful, very useful. I wish I knew more. But thank you so much. Hope everybody has a great day. Stay safe, stay well. And please feel free to reach out to us. I know I had put this screen back here for the name of the thing, but I don't want to blow it again. So it's the Learning Center for the Deaf Interpreting Services. And Brooke Went was from Medina County Career Center. They had that as the end slide, but better to have faces than slides. You can get our contact information anytime. There will be an email that goes on out to you that has the recording of this. So you can forward that on to your colleagues or your administrators. That is a useful thing. And of course, it'll be up on that website again too. So Ben, say hello to the people. How's it going?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for your patience as we got our interpreters on screen where they belong. And thanks so much to Joyce and Brooke and Lena and Margaret for your excellent work today. I'm so thrilled that this went so well and that we had so much attendance and so much participation from the attendance. So many questions up here in the chat and then coming into our emails after that. So again, please reach out to us. We're really pleased to be able to offer these resources. And we will be continuing our Wednesday webinars next month, November 4th at 2 p.m. as Joyce said. Yeah, we already have that registration link set up on our website. So I'm going to put that landing page so you can go to the website and register right now. if you'd like to go ahead and sign up for our November webinar Wednesday. We are going to have a director of special education from South Carolina joining us. She's going to be talking about helping to bridge the gap between the classroom and the workforce and the working world for students with disabilities. So you can see we have some common threads through our material, but we also like to give people that are joining us for a second or third or fourth time something new. So thanks again, and thanks to all of our presenters and our interpreters today.
And I just realized, Ben, one of the things that I didn't go to was the fact that you can get a more in-depth tour of the products. A couple people have asked that, and you can go to our website. I'll put it in the chat. So if you want a tour of the products, you can do so. This is really meant to be more of a best practices sharing versus a product pitch. But if you want a tour of the products, you can schedule a tour. And I'm typing that on in and putting the link in to the chat. But like I said, if you bounce around our website for a bit, you'll see good things that are there. And we can always set up a separate tour for you. Some people have asked about cost and things like that. We're happy to go on over with you. They're all different costs depending on what products you're looking for and things that you need to use. So let's go for that. Go onto that site for that. Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it all, and I hope you have a wonderful day. So, thanks again to Lena and to Margaret. That was fun. Thanks, Brooke.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for having us.